Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. I'm back with Sudha today. So, Sudha is a mental health advocate and a psychologist, and a founder of Arya Health. Thank you very much for being here. It's my pleasure to have you. It's wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, before Sudha getting into any kind of conversations, why don't you introduce yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm a psychologist and I'm the founder of Aronia Mental Health Services, which
Okay.
offers individual and couple therapy. I am also a psychology teacher. I teach psychology to undergraduate students in Delhi University, and I'm a passionate mental health advocate.
Okay. Great. I'm very sorry. I'm having food because it's gonna be late for me otherwise.
No, that's okay.
So, yeah.
That's all right.
So, before getting into any conversation, Sudha, just one question to you is: what do you think is mental health? How would you define mental health in your own words? We have a lot of different stuff, and people say it's like, same as your health and all those different stuff. But how do you see it in personally in your personal life?
It's an interesting question. And as you said, different people can define it very differently.
Yeah.
But as we define health, that it's not just the absence of disease,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you look at the WHO definition of health. Similarly, we can also define mental health as not just the absence of mental illness. I think very oversimplified understanding of mental health is that there are some people who have mental illnesses, right? Who have disorders, that are diagnosable, right? Severe illnesses like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, clinical depression, and so on. And there are the rest of us, other people who supposedly are okay and they have good mental health. That's just a very grossly oversimplified understanding of mental health. I think mental health has to do with the quality of our life. Mental health has to do with a sense of well-being.
Mm-hmm.
It has to do with one's vitality. Do you feel energized in your daily life? And some days you may, some days you may not, which is why there are no clean compartments, neat compartments that one is totally okay, one has no mental health issues at all, or one is so severely suffering from some mental health issue that they can't get on with life at all. I think that these are ways of understanding and simplifying mental health that we have created, but real life is far more complex than that. So I think mental health is essentially, just quality of life. Good mental health is having good quality of life, having a sense of well-being.
Great, great. Thank you very much for keeping that new perspective over here. Yeah. So before getting again one last question before getting we get into the discussion, why don't you introduce us to the topic and speak about it a bit briefly to understand what's the problem and yeah.
Right. So the topic is pain is inevitable, suffering is not, and the importance of emotional efficacy. Now, this stems from the very simple understanding that pain is an inescapable part of everybody's life, right? Some or the other pain is going to be there because that's just the nature of human existence. But we can reduce our suffering, we can enhance the quality of our life by how we respond to our emotions. That's where the role of emotional efficacy comes in.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, okay, great. So what is pain? How does psychology defines pain? you know of course the pain maybe when you're not really feeling, if somebody has hurt you, that's a pain. Because you feel parting relations make you feel pain, you feel bad. Feeling pain could be somebody hurts you, that could be a pain. Somebody does to you something, that could be pain. But how does pain is described, and how do you think is pain important in today's life, and what is pain, mental pain? Yeah.
Hmm. So, a pain is of various kinds, and as I said, it's an inescapable part of our life. We are going to suffer through losses. There are certain things called givens of existence.
Yeah.
Because we are human beings, we
Mm-hmm.
have to deal with, let's say, mortality.
Yeah.
right? No matter how accomplished a person is, no matter how wonderful a person is, they have to contend with mortality. Their loved ones are going to pass away at some point,
Hmm.
over which they have no control. They themselves are going to pass away at some point, over which they have no control. And it's not just, loss of a human being. There are so many losses that we go through, even on a daily basis. So anything can, you know result in pain, but suffering is different from that. And I think that's where the role of emotional efficacy comes in. Right, there are these situations which will result in some particular emotion in you. For example, you've lost someone that you cared for. You are going to experience sadness. Let's suppose you have a very important exam coming up. You really care about doing well in it.
Hmm.
You are going to experience anxiety. These are very normal emotions to have. A lot
Yeah.
of people sit and question the legitimacy of these emotions. Is it okay to have so much anxiety? Is it okay to be sad for so long?
Yeah.
Um, and that results in something called dirty discomfort. Psychologists have this classification of discomfort as clean and dirty. So clean discomfort is the discomfort that everybody has to have because we're human beings. You lose someone, you will be sad. You have something very important coming up, you will experience anxiety. That's clean discomfort. But when we start struggling with our clean discomfort, when we start struggling with our emotions, then we can have dirty discomfort, which can be far more enduring. And it's also, simply put, avoidable suffering. Right, if I'm sad because of my sadness, or if I'm anxious because of my anxiety, right? If my anxiety makes me angry, or my anger makes me more angry, because I'm judging all of these emotions,
Hmm.
um, that's dirty discomfort. So a lot depends on, how we deal with pain, how we deal with suffering. That has a lot to do with our understanding of emotions, our relationship with our emotions. And that's where it becomes really important to become skilled at emotion efficacy.
So how can somebody become, you know, efficient in emotional efficacy? How? You know, uh,
Well, ideally,
yeah. Go ahead.
ideally
Go ahead.
one can go to therapy, because the first step is emotion awareness.
Hmm.
So one needs to engage in a compassionate inquiry into the workings of one's ego. If I experience anger a lot, why do I experience that? Where is my sadness coming from? Or where is my anxiety coming from? So understanding ourselves better, that's the first step. Learning more about emotions, so that we don't judge our emotions. Rather, we understand that they are there for a purpose. We learn to sit with them, listen to them. And a very critical component of emotion efficacy is also developing a flexible relationship with our emotions. How if I ask you to touch your nose, you'll touch this, right?
Yeah.
So that's your nose, this is my nose, this is my ear.
Yeah.
I would not say this is me. I would not say this is me, right? This is mine, but it's not me. This is mine, but it's not me. Similarly, thoughts and emotions, right? Our emotions are ours, but they're not us. And once we understand that, then I think we can cultivate a flexible relationship with our emotions in which we're not dictated by them. We don't feel overpowered by them. We don't feel overwhelmed. A lot of us have heightened emotional reactivity. Like, of course, everybody is wired for survival, but some people who go through trauma, some people who go through intense difficult experiences, they develop a heightened sensitivity for some kind of cues. For example, if I've had a terrible experience related to humiliation, as a child, then I might be overly sensitive to the possibility of humiliation happening. Those cues may make me overly sensitive. And that can often result in increased vulnerability to stress. That can really affect our well-being, our personal goals, our health, our relationships.
Okay, okay, great, great.
So
uh,
I'm so sorry, I didn't fully answer your
sure, sure,
question. So as I said,
go ahead, go ahead.
the first is going to therapy. That's the ideal, but of course, not everybody can or will go to therapy. But we can invest, our energy, our time in learning more about ourselves and learning more about emotions. There are wonderful books out there. There are podcasts.
Yeah.
A lot of psychologists also have podcasts. I'm sure a lot of people like you who are working to create awareness in the field of mental health. Anything that helps in understanding oneself better and understanding one's thoughts and emotions better, that is likely to help.
Okay, okay, great, great. I'm sorry to disrupt in the between.
No, no,
um
not.
yeah, yeah. So moving forward, you know uh what are the what can we do? Pain is something we can't stop, or I think a person must feel even pain, must even feel happiness, must even feel sadness, must even feel angry, and must even cry and do everything. It's part of life. And
Yeah.
as we have learned, I think you also learned it when you were a student. I'm learning as a student that human is a social animal, and it has to do everything that a society does, right? So how can we, um how can we let feel our, make ourselves feel pain, but then how can we come from out from that pain, and just of course some of the time we'll have to move forward in life and can't cry or more forever for something. But that pain is always going to be there in your heart, some loss is going to be always there in your heart. How can you, how can you make yourself strong enough moving forward and making yourself strong, because what has been gone will never come again. So yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of people struggle with acceptance. Acceptance is not easy. I think, and that's something that is also cultivated with practice. Um, there is this Buddhist lesson that I came across in a book very recently. The lesson is called The Arrow. And it talks about how, if an arrow hits you at a particular part of your body, of course, it creates a lot of pain. But if at the same part of your body another arrow hits you, the pain is not just double the pain that you had originally, it's close to 10 times the pain,
Hmm.
right? And the first arrow is what happens to you,
Okay.
anything that life throws at you. The second arrow is unfortunately self inflicted. Often we hold on to certain storylines,
Hmm.
which further increase our suffering. Often we have difficulty in accepting, and acceptance is a process. I don't think anybody accepts something just with the flicker of a switch, unless one is a zen monk or something. I think all of us require a lot of practice, and little things like mindfulness really help. um, Cultivating gratitude for what we have. These may seem like very simplistic practices, but they go a long way in helping us keep in mind that life goes on, everything is transient, everything is transitory. And just like happiness seems to be far away when we are suffering, similarly there will come a point when this very suffering will be far away and happiness will be near. Everything is transient, just like clouds pass through the sky. If we can learn to cultivate that kind of a relationship with our emotions, that we can let them pass through us instead of either completely resisting them, that I can't handle so much sadness, I just can't. And then that can become pathogenic, that avoidance can become pathogenic, or getting completely consumed by it, being completely overwhelmed by it. That can also uh, that can also lead to a decrease in our quality of life. So, having a healthy, flexible relationship with our thoughts, with our emotions, that goes a long way. As I said, a lot of people confuse thoughts and emotions with who we are, taking our thoughts literally, or being dictated by our emotions, being at the mercy of our emotions. If we learn to shift from that kind of a relationship to a relationship in which we understand that I'm so much more than my thoughts, I'm so much bigger than my emotions, they are parts of me, I think that can really help.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So I think we covered the questions, and the questions I wanted to ask you about on this topic. So, what would be your suggestion to anybody who thinks, I think there are some countries leaving maybe some America or Australia, or some countries where people are very open, but I think almost rest of the world, mental health is something stigmatized, and it's not, people are not still open to it. So if people doesn't want to approach regarding pain, as today's topic, we're concerned about today's topic, if people don't want to approach a person or an expert, so what would be your advice to them, and what can they do, some kind of activities or some kind of stuff they can do to help themselves? Yeah.
um I'm a little concerned about how this answer might be taken, because there are a lot of people that really need professional help. I might suggest, let's say, books. I might suggest mindfulness, or learning through, let's suppose, workbooks and other kinds of resources, how to cultivate a flexible relationship with your thoughts and emotions. All of these may be fine for those who aren't really struggling with something severe, but there are a lot of people in our country who need professional mental health help. So if you can afford seeking help, you know I would recommend that you do it. It's 2021 now, and it's very high time we began to recognize that just like we go to the hospital for dealing with our physical health issues, we can do the same for our mental health issues. I mean, if your car is not working, would you not take it to a mechanic?
Hmm.
Would you just would you let it stay in the garage, or would you throw it and buy a new one, or would you try to keep pushing it even if it's not really running, even when you can see that it's clearly not in its best position? There's only a certain point until which we can continue to push ourselves without giving ourselves the care that we need. If you have doubts that you might need professional mental health help, do reach out to therapists, not necessarily for long term therapy, but just to see how you're doing and what you might benefit from. Some people can benefit from short term therapy as well. Some
Hmm.
people who are honest with their therapist in the first session that, I don't think I'm in it for the long run. I'm looking for something to help me right now. Perhaps you can be given resources if the therapist assesses you and finds out that, yes, this is doable, then you can be given resources. So it really depends on what one is dealing with, the severity of one's struggles. And it's very difficult to give some generic advice that's going to help everybody. I'm sure in our country there's no shortage of advice, right?
Yeah.
Members of the family,
Yeah.
friends, relatives, everyone can suggest things like go to the park more often, do exercise, meditate, have a good diet, look at your sleep schedule, all of which are good. The pieces of good advice, but they're not enough when a person is really in the depths of despair and they need professional help. These kind of advices, in fact, can be really counterproductive, wherein they may think that they're not really being seen. If we assume that just changing your sleep schedule, or tinkering with your diet, exercising a little more, can just magically turn your suffering around. That can come across as a little insensitive. So I'm not sure how to answer this question as to what can people do. I'm sure people already know what are some of the practices that one can engage in to maintain good health, good physical health, good mental health. But there is no substitute for professional
Yeah.
mental health help.
Hmm.
And if you think you might need it, just give the mental health field the benefit of doubt. Just check what are the options available and how you might benefit from them.
Okay. Okay. Great. Great. Thank you very much, Sudha, for being here. It was a pleasure. I think thank you for giving your time to me. And yeah, thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.